All right, so Deshaun Watson has officially been recommended for a suspension of 6 games by Judge Sue Robinson. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let's break it down. You probably know overwhelming amounts of detail about the Deshaun Watson case, but for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna summarize. So, as a member of the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson was balling on the field. Off the field, he was doing a little bit too much and potentially stuff that he should not be doing. And he was getting massages that turned into sexual encounters. And during these massages, Watson is accused of taking them too far and making the encounters more of a sexual nature instead of what they should be, a service being provided to him. So that's pretty much the backstory and the gist of it. Now that was all brewing up until on January 28th, 2021, Houston Texans star Deshaun Watson requested a trade from the team. So a little under 2 months go by. On March 16th, 2021, Deshaun Watson was finding himself with all that stuff in the background going on, becoming in the forefront, and being sued by over 20 women for alleged sexual misconduct and sexual assault during those massages. At the time, it was 22 women. A later escalated to 26, with one of the women's lawsuit being thrown out. Now, all I have to say is just to catch you up on what happened. Now, where we're at today. Deshaun Watson settled most of these cases back in June. He settled 20 of the cases originally, and then today he also settled another 3 more. So there's one allegation actually still pending against him. During this whole time, Watson was not playing for the Houston Texans, mind you, and he was on a pseudo suspension, but he still got paid for his time while he was fighting these charges during the 2021 season. So we get a grand jury that was supposed to be the nail in Deshaun Watson's coffin, so to speak. And to much to people's chagrin, in Harris County, Texas, Deshaun Watson was found to be, there was not enough evidence. There was not necessarily a guilty, but there definitely wasn't an innocence either. So the court said that they don't have enough evidence to go ahead and proceed with the trial. So no criminal charges on that end. There was another county also involved who decided, a grand jury decided not to proceed with charges against Deshaun Watson also. So once the grand juries came down with their ruling, Deshaun Watson was pretty much a free agent. Everybody could start courting him, and that's what happened. So Deshaun Watson would get traded to Cleveland. So during this courting phase, Deshaun Watson was heavily pursued by most teams in the NFL, but specifically 2 teams in the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Cleveland Browns were also in the mix. A couple other teams allegedly were heavily pursuing him. And at the time, when all this was going on, Deshaun Watson was originally supposed to be going to the Miami Dolphins had he had settled his cases earlier. But all that in hindsight, Deshaun didn't. He wanted to fight. Because of that, he was the talk of this offseason. And he eventually landed on March 20th, 2022, with the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns gave up a tremendous amount of capital to pursue and get Deshaun Watson, including losing their quarterback, which some people may not call that a loss, but hey. Anyway, Deshaun Watson gets traded to the Cleveland Browns, and then as a member of the Browns, he ends up settling the cases. So we were left with the decision between the NFL and Deshaun Watson's camp about how they would either come to an agreement or dispute a potential suspension. Right now, as of August 1st, 2022, the independent arbitrator, because of the collective bargaining agreement that the NFL and NFL Players Association has signed and agreed to, there will be an independent arbitrator who helps enforce these matters, right? An arbitrator officer, disciplinary officer, if you will. Before, it was mainly Roger Goodell being able to make decisions as he so pleased, and mainly at the behest of the NFL owners. So while many of the owners don't like the financial things that came with Deshaun Watson being traded to the Cleveland Browns, most of the backlash is about actual what Watson is alleged to have done, but not been actually proven guilty of. We now know that Watson has been recommended to be suspended for 6 games by the independent arbitrator, Sue Robinson. So where does that leave us? Should Deshaun have been suspended more? Should the recommendation be longer? Should the recommendation have been shorter? Should he be recommended at all for any kind of punishment? But let's specifically get into the narratives of this, okay? So the media has been trying to make it so that it's Deshaun Watson is against the people, right? The people want him suspended forever because of Trevor Bauer, a guy who got suspended in MLB, a baseball player who got suspended for his conduct off the field. You have people trying to make equivalents to Ray Rice, which was not the same at all, or Greg Hardy, not the same at all. And I hate to be that kind of guy, but I see no real understanding or correlation between domestic violence and alleged sexual assault, sexual misconduct. It's not necessarily the same thing. And I'm not here to be law enforcement or jurisdiction of how this all works out and plays out. I'm just stating the facts. Two different kind of crimes, two different set of situations that we have here. So that is something that I think is grossly overplayed by the media, of trying to lump other black men with this situation, when I very rarely hear, like Ben Roethlisberger, for instance, who he is falling more under the category of a Ray Rice or a Greg Hardy. But if we want to make more complete comparisons, why don't we talk about Robert Kraft, who had an investigation on him and a ring of other people for being a part of let's say a prostitution ring, as what it was labeled at the time. We're going to a massage spa. So you have that. Then you also have Daniel Snyder, who they're still having to go in front of Congress. The National Football League's commissioner has to go in front of Congress to try to duck and dodge and deflect what the NFL didn't do in their investigation of Daniel Snyder and the Washington Commanders. Those are the more accurate comparisons between the two. I see more of a direct correlation between sexual assault and sexual misconduct with people who have actually been alleged with doing that. So that's just me. Now, because of what happened with Ray Rice, of course, the NFL had to kind of backtrack and make changes to their already authoritarian way of handling punishment for an athlete. But they have never addressed how they're handling punishment for ownership. Now, I told you, ownership was not happy when Deshaun Watson actually got traded to Cleveland. And it was not because Deshaun off the field. It was Deshaun at the bank. The Cleveland Browns are putting a lot of money in Deshaun Watson's hands. $230 million, fully guaranteed contract. And that right there is the reason why the NFL would like him to either get suspended longer, fined, or the Cleveland Browns specifically just did not give him that kind of contract. They would really rather it be overruled or thrown away that this contract that Deshaun signed is like invalid or whatever. They would rather the commissioner do that than suspend him for a long period of time. They don't really care about that. I'm sorry to let you all know, because of what Robert Kraft, Daniel Snyder, Jerry Jones, the list goes on, Mark Davis, the list goes on with how the owners move. They get paid an exorbitant amount of money to basically own and operate a team, right? You don't worry about how much money Mark Davis, Robert Kraft, Daniel Snyder, Jerry Jones, you're not worried about how much money they make. But they make twice as much in guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson does. But the media will tell you that it's just a Deshaun Watson issue, and that we'll pick and choose a couple more athletes. We'll put Ray Rice in here. We'll throw Greg Hardy in here. But they don't even have anything to do directly with Deshaun Watson. They're not linked to what Deshaun Watson has done. But these men, Robert, these other owners have done, he's linked more to what they're doing. And your failure, NFL, to suspend these men, to show them more punishment than a very much slap on the wrist, how does that make the fan feel? But the media again will tell you that the fan feels so much, specifically women fans feel so outraged by Deshaun Watson more than anything else, that he has to be suspended for a whole season. He has to be gone indefinite until we decide he can return. And for why? Because of allegations? You told us that allegations, a lot of the people who defend, let's say an owner, for instance, Robert Kraft, it was just allegations. We don't know what happened. Oh, he's just an old man and he was looking for, what old men look for that have money. You know what I mean? And that would be all cool if you was given the same energy to Deshaun Watson. I don't see ESPN, I don't see Fox. I don't see Undisputed. I don't see Pro Football Talk. I don't see them going brother from another. I don't see them going at Robert Kraft or any of these other owners the same way they've gone at Deshaun Watson and made him a front page story every single day. It's like literally they just use his name because they know it's going to get clicks. And I understand it's an important topic to talk about, right? It's extremely important. What Deshaun Watson has allegedly done is creepy, right? I'm here to tell you it's weird, right? My dude need help, all right? Period. Deshaun, relax. But at the same time, I can't sit here and just point at Deshaun Watson when there's potentially like 5 to 10 other more important people behind him with no punishment, right? Doing whatever they want to do, and you all are okay with it because it's allegations. I mean, it's just not cool. It's really not cool. And while I have been relatively silent on this issue, it's because of situations like this. I was waiting for a decision to be made, and the judge has made her decision. Now, to put the facts in order, she's also a woman. She's a former federal judge. She's heard all of the both sides of the case. She's heard all of the information, and this was her ruling: that she believes Deshaun only deserved a 6-game suspension, no fine, outside of calling it egregious and the stuff that he did. Again, no one can really excuse. Like, the facts of the case is not going to really be excused, but there's not enough evidence to convict this man publicly or criminally. And shouldn't that be enough? Shouldn't that not be enough when it's enough for the owners? How can the NFL, specifically before anyone says, well, the owners own, players play, the National Football League themselves said owners are held to a higher standard. So how are you held to a higher standard? National Football League. The fans want to know. I'm just a voice. Don't get mad at the messenger. I'm saying, if it looks bad for women to have to see Deshaun Watson get a contract and play in week 7 versus the Baltimore Ravens, it should look bad that Robert Kraft owns the team and he's watching and making money from preseason to whenever the last game of the New England Patriots season is, or the Dallas Cowboys season, or the Las Vegas Raiders season. You get my point? Is that it just doesn't make sense to me how women are more outraged about this than that, and Deshaun is not as protected in terms of the media as any of these men are. So you can weigh it what you will, and you can call it what you want, but I'm calling people's bluff. I actually tend to agree with some of the narratives that have been posted that this is all just for publicity, that the NFL is not really trying to pursue a whole game season suspension for Deshaun Watson. But if they are, if it's not just window dressing and the NFL really wants to suspend Deshaun Watson for a whole 17-game season when he already technically sat out a season, it's weird, because now you got to look at, but what have you done, right? Let alone what you have shown to women in all these other instances with more powerful men than the players. Players just play. At the end of the day, the league moves on, right? So it doesn't matter what happens. We'll find another running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Buy Ray Rice. We'll find another defensive end for the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys. Buy Greg Hardy. And we'll find somebody else to take over for quarterback of the Cleveland Browns in 10 to 20 years. Buy Deshaun Watson. So if it keeps moving, you think anybody cares if Robert Kraft owns the team? Do you think anybody cares if Daniel Snyder owns the team? There's a lot of people who would tell you they probably need to go. But you're telling me that that's immaterial. Because of why? Is it about the power? Is it about the color? Or is there something else going on? Just asking for a friend. Now, I remember when, in terms of with Colin Kaepernick, now it's not the same, but what I'm pointing to is, for Colin Kaepernick, the league was not that serious about letting black fans know that did agree with Colin Kaepernick, and black military people, black law enforcement officers, or white for that matter, or any other nationality or race that supported Colin Kaepernick, that while we support Colin Kaepernick, this is exactly why we have kept him out the league. And there's no way you can tell me that he's not been kept out of the league. But what message does that send to people who supported Colin Kaepernick? What message have you sent to the people who support him? What message have you sent to the people who support Deshaun Watson and those who say that they also would support a Robert Kraft or Daniel Snyder? You've told the supporters of Daniel Snyder, Robert Kraft, and these owners that it's okay, that as long as you own one of these teams, you are in a position to be taken care of from punishment. But you have told other people, like a Deshaun, you must be suspended, or we must publicly shame you to no end every single day, while we are protecting other people, while we will go to the United States Congress to defend someone else. That doesn't sit right with me. But for some fans, it might. Now, after dissecting all of this, I'm gonna let you sit with it. We out.